Good afternoon or good evening. I know I scheduled this for 7 and I was waiting for the 7 o'clock hour and I thought, why wait? Just go ahead and start. I will admit I'm nervous. This is my first official video for YouTube. Also, when I scheduled this for May the 9th, I did not know that it would be Mother's Day. Um, but anyway, here we are. So, for Mother's Day, I actually am going to cover a Sunday school lesson that we had on April 25th, and it's called Overcoming Losses and Brokenness. And why I chose this one for Mother's Day is because in 2020, we all lost things and people, and I'm sure some of you lost mothers. And I know that's a very broken feeling. I haven't personally experienced the loss of my mother, but I've lost my father. And to lose a parent, it's a different kind of hurt. Brother, so I know that type of hurt also. So I know it's different to lose a parent, and especially a mother, one who's known for caring and even discipline. And now you're older, and even if you're not quite so old, you probably miss that. And so I thought I would cover this one, and this one is about Jeremiah. Jeremiah was known as the weeping um, prophet. In this particular lesson, he was crying because he recognized the loss and destruction around him of his people. And I see that when I look, our particular church didn't close during Corona, but others did. But there were a lot of losses, not from our church. I thank the Lord. Not to say anything, but just thank the Lord. Um, and it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking that so many people had to perish in this thing. But in spite of that, and some of us who are sitting in the midst of not only losing people but losing things, and maybe we personally haven't lost, but we've witnessed others lose, and we can empathize, and when we understand what that is, and to them it's their world crumbling. Their world is crumbling around them. So they're like sitting in isolation, just sitting amongst the ruin. And this is where Jeremiah finds himself. So the topic and the thought of the video is overcoming losses and brokenness. And I've already said with the passing of 2020, we all lost something, someone. Some of us lost multiple people. And without hope and faith in God, a lot of us would not have made it through. And I'm going to be honest there. I wanted to say without hope or faith in someone bigger than us, but my channel is not about someone. It's in fact about God. So I did include that name. So I want to let you know off top that I will be discussing issues of life, but God based. So I want to get that off the top. Um, Also, we all have ash of destruction around us, either personally or through life relationships. We've seen others lose people and things. So, in this particular story, Lamentations 5, Jeremiah, as I said, was known as the weeping prophet. He cried about the destruction of Jerusalem. And we have to understand why Jerusalem and Israel found themselves in the position that they found themselves in. And basically, it was because they turned their backs on God. God did not turn his back on them. And God allowed them to be taken captive. He allowed them, in fact, I think I have it correct, he allowed them to be taken captive by slaves. You're conquered in a war, and you're not going to be under the rule of the king. You're going to be under the rule of slaves who were previously mistreated. So you can only imagine how they're going to treat you. They've been conditioned to treat slaves in a certain manner. So they've been taken captive by captives. Let's say that. Okay. And Jeremiah realized Israel lost because they lost God. Israel had begun to worship false gods and believe in its large army to protect them. So Now they're in fact saying, we don't need you anymore, God. We have this God over here and we worship this God and we have this huge army to protect us. So we don't need your protection and you don't have to protect us. So they go and they make alliances with Babylon. And lo and behold, before they need Babylon, even Babylon is gone. So now the alliance that they made to protect them is not there to protect them. Okay. So they're in trouble. They're in trouble. So he realizes and he recognizes the error. And so he pleads with God and he prays to God for forgiveness for the people. And for us, maybe we worship our spouse, maybe we worship our house, or maybe we worship our car. And we may say, oh, no, I don't worship those things. But if in fact they prevent you from worshiping God, you do worship them. So I know some people work on Sunday, and I, at this particular time, don't happen to be one of them. But when I did, I made it known that certain nights I do not work. I go to church on those nights. So if you can't use me, you just can't use me, because I also sat in on a sermon some years ago. And this particular pastor said, if you're depending on your paycheck, you're depending on the wrong thing. And I said, oh, hallelujah, hallelujah. And Monday I lost my job. And I will tell you that that's been over 10 years ago. And at that time, I made a covenant with God. I said, God, if you take care of my family, I'll work for you. And that's in sense what I've done now. I've strayed away and he was still there. He's kept the covenant. He's still been providing for me. It's me who strayed away, just like these people. But see, sometimes you can stray and you can get only so far, and he's going to spank you right back in line if you allow him. You have to allow it, because you can get on that path and be so determined on that path that you don't allow the correction. Well, they did allow the correction. They knew they had to confess the wrong, straighten up, and then they would have God's protection again. So, just something to think about. Anything, and I said that anything that prevents one from acknowledging thing, and I said that anything that prevents one from acknowledging worship, then you're worshiping that thing. And that's just plain and simple. So I had something that I did want to read to you from, actually, first from this one. Um, 1 and 2 I have, and it says, God can handle the difficult questions and statements we make from our human frailty and sad brokenness in spirit. So we say things, we do things to hurt people, and God can help us to fix that. He can help us to straighten that up. Jeremiah calls us to recognize that God hears about our hopes and grants us the strength to endure the pain of today so that we can reach the brightness of tomorrow. So we have those dark moments, those dark times, but if we keep the faith, and hope, He'll bring us through. Something else that's written here is that this lesson is a reminder that often the disgrace that takes hold of us is sometimes partially due to our failures and lack of accountability. You have to take accountability. If you know you've done something, just own that thing. Just say, hey, I'm sorry. You don't have to go into anything else. Just apologize and let it be sincere. If you're sincere from the heart, first of all, God knows it, and then they'll know it. And even if they don't know it, you've done what you're supposed to do. What they accept and don't accept is really not on you. Something my husband tells me all the time, and I really, at first, I got tired of hearing it. It's not about what they do to you. It's about what you do to them. Okay. Or something like that, but you get the meaning. Something else I wanted to read, and this is, where did I want to start? It's still coming from the lesson, and it's Jeremiah prays for restoration. So in this time of brokenness, in this time of so much loss, so much pain, we have to pray for restoration. In Jeremiah 4, it says, but you, O Lord, reign forever. Your throne endures to all generations. Why have you forgotten us completely? Why have you forsaken us these many days? Restore us to yourself, O Lord. that we may be restored. Renew our days as of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and are angry with us beyond measure. He's never angry with us beyond measure. We can always apologize and start over. That's something that we have to know. Each day that we wake up, he's given us another chance to start over. Jeremiah acknowledges the majesty and power of Yahweh and prays that his supplication is heard. In his plea, Jeremiah asks why God has forgotten Israel and why he has forsaken the people for what seems. Jeremiah is determined to beg for Israel's collective life. As the passage concludes, Israel is found pleading with the Lord for restoration. Wishing to return home, they long for the days when they were free, landowners and masters of their destiny. Israel did not lose her status because of the rise of the power of the Babylonians. It was the people's arrogance that was the cause of their demise. Moreover, Israel did not lose her place as God's chosen people because the Lord abandoned her. The people believed they did not need to depend on the Lord. Even while under siege, the people turned to idols for rescue. Israel refused to heed prophetic warnings, which would have allowed her to remain as God's chosen people. I'm going to stop there. I have to back up. Israel did not lose her place as God's chosen people because the Lord abandoned her. The people believed they did not need to depend on the Lord. Even while under siege, the people turned to idols for rescue. So during Corona, what were you doing? Was your church closed? What were you doing? Who did you turn to? Now, technically, Corona is over, or so they say. But I asked again, who would you turn to? Was you waiting for Johnson and Johnson, or was you waiting for Moderna? Who is it? Was that say? Who did you turn to? Okay, so I'm gonna keep reading. Oh, actually, I think that's it. That's actually it. So we had that, and I said actually page 28, 5:19 through 22, and I read that, and I read the summation of it. So basically, I just want you to be encouraged. If you're looking around and you see things, even in your own life, and it looks desolate or like it's full of destruction, just take a moment and pray. Pray. Talk to the one that made you. I don't know who. Look, I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to say pray. God is real. Prayer works. Prayer moves some things. Prayer moves people. Pray today. Pray tomorrow. Every time you think about something, something stressing you, something worried, you pray. Don't worry about it. Pray about it. I promise you, prayer works. Prayer works. I want to thank you for joining me on this video. I think the next one will go a lot smoother. I don't think it's so bad. And I did videos on Instagram at first. This room was a different colors. So the room is cheering me up too. And I hope it gave you a sunny view. Everybody take care. Until next time. Who am I?